Hey everyone! Hope you guys are doing well today. I am live tonight to talk to you about the pelvic floor. Before we get started, since we have a bunch of new people here, if you don't know who I am, I'm Devin Garcia, and this is my group, Mama Yoga. And before we get into the meat of our conversation today, let me know if you are joining live or on the replay. And as I'm chatting with you, if anything comes up that resonates with you, or if you have questions or anything, drop it in the comments. And whether it's live or on the replay, I'll come and check and we can chat. So why do I know what I'm talking about? So I've been teaching yoga for about 14 years, longer than 14 years. And pelvic floor is something that I didn't know much about until I did trainings in prenatal and postpartum yoga, and specifically pelvic floor training. And it's super interesting how it's a topic that a lot of women don't know a lot about. Everybody thinks that just doing squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release Kegels is all you need to do and you'll have a healthy pelvic floor. And over the years of trainings and learnings and workshops and all sorts of things I've done, I have learned that that is actually counterproductive. And so I want to spread the word and help everyone feel better and know how to work with their pelvic floor. So that, ever hear of that statistic, 1 in 3 like me, that refers to leakage and incontinence. And I would love to be a part of a world where that statistic gets smaller and smaller, so that more and more women don't have to experience that and they can feel confident having fun on things like a trampoline. All right, so let's get into the conversation. So I'm a mother, and pregnancy and postpartum is a tough time on the pelvic floor. It's a tough time all around, but especially on the pelvic floor. When you are pregnant, as your baby grows and everything that's going on in the uterus gets bigger, it's putting more and more pressure on your pelvic floor, obviously. And so a lot of women towards the end of their pregnancies feel like they can't sneeze or they can't cough without having a little bit of a leak, or there's honestly so many women who can't tell whether their water is leaking or whether they are peeing a bit, which is sad. And then postpartum, your body has been through major trauma. Even if you had the easiest delivery and labor, your body has still been through a lot of trauma. Your pelvic floor has been through a lot. It's woof, right? So it's a time of your life where your pelvic floor needs some love, and unfortunately we're not given that love, and we're told to just accept it. It'd be like that was part of the deal when you decide to be a mother, but that's not true. A big important thing to know is that squeeze release Kegel thing that I mentioned earlier is it's definitely a starter tactic, because you get to be more aware, have a better mind-body connection to that area. But that, as I said before, can be counterproductive. One of the reasons why a lot of people fit into that statistic, that 1 in 3, is because their pelvic muscles are actually too tight. So an important thing to note is that you want to have a full range of motion in your pelvic floor, not just tightness. So I mean, that goes for literally every muscle in your whole body, but today we're talking about pelvic floor. So even though you're squeezing and squeezing and squeezing, people often forget to find the opposite action, which I call like a blossoming open. So the easiest way, the most effective way, the thing you can start doing today is learning your pelvic tilt. So that might be like in your mind, like, what? How does that have anything to do with the pelvic floor? So the easiest way to find your pelvic tilt and to really create that mind-body connection and get it in your muscle memory is through cat-cow. So that movement in yoga, cat pose, where you're like arching your back, and cow pose is where you're bending your back. So in cat pose, you're tilting your pelvis down, so you're thinking of your tailbone coming down towards the floor. Doing that action is a natural contraction of the pelvic floor. You don't even have to think about it. If you have a functioning pelvic floor, if you don't have any sort of medical condition that is being addressed, that just naturally happens. And then when you're in cow pose, your pelvis is tilting the other way, your tailbone's coming up towards the sky. That is a natural blossoming open of the pelvic floor. That is a very important movement. That is the one that nobody thinks about when they're thinking about doing Kegels and everything. So you might think, well, I've done cat-cow a million times. I know what I'm doing. But we always think about our upper back and our chest in cat-cow. So when you go to do cat-cow, really challenge yourself to think of your pelvis and your tailbone. Connecting to your tailbone is the easiest way to do it. So when you're in cat pose, you think of your tailbone coming down towards the floor. When you're in cow pose, you're thinking of your tailbone coming up towards the sky. So when you're trying to heal from pregnancy and in your postpartum period, once you are cleared to exercise, you want to be working on the contraction, probably about 60%, and then the blossoming open like 40%. And challenge yourself to notice if you're doing any core work whatsoever, you're thinking of your tailbone coming towards the front of your body. You're thinking of that cat pose. When you're in a plank position, notice if you're doing that, or if your bum's up in the sky. If your bum's up in the sky, you're doing more of the cow pose, and your pelvis is tilting the way you don't want it to be in that pose. You're blossoming open when you should be contracting. So you want to really think about that pelvic tilt. And at first, when you go to try it for the first time with that awareness, you might not feel anything. I did not feel anything the first time I tried it in one of the workshops we were doing. The teacher was like, oh, so you're gonna feel this. And I was like, am I the only one who doesn't? But no, it's very common to not feel it at first. So if you really try to just even close your eyes when you're doing cat-cow and think of that area, it's going to eventually click. You're eventually going to feel that, and then you'll notice it in all the other poses you're doing. So my tip of the night is to think of your tailbone coming towards the front of your body always. Think of your cat pose always when you're doing any core work whatsoever. And that's going to be a game changer for your lower abdomen. And I really hope that will help with the that statistic. And I hope if you experience any of those leaks or feelings of, oh yeah, that's just life now, it doesn't have to be. Do these things and it's going to help you eventually. So that's my tip for today. I want to mention before I leave this live today that previously lives you were able to keep them up forever in the group, but Facebook just recently changed that and they automatically will delete eventually. I believe it's after 30 days. So I'm going to be creating a YouTube channel to put these videos on after the fact. So if you ever want to refer back to it, you'll be able to if you go over there. I am in the process of making it, so I'm going to post it for you eventually, probably before the end of the week. And the other thing was that you guys voted and you wanted more tutorials. So I'm going to be posting the tutorials over there. It's going to be like, I'm going to put a poll up and you guys are going to vote on what tutorial you want for that week. Then I'll direct you over there and you can check that out, and hopefully it'll be really helpful for you. And yeah, so the other thing I wanted to mention, I did allude to the fact that I have all this training and I've been to so many workshops, etc. on this subject. So I really know how to work with the area. I really know how to make you feel better. Like I said before, there's so many people who are accepting a fate of having to wear panty liners or just not going to go to the trampoline park with their kids because they're a middle-aged woman, and middle-aged women don't do that. I want to help you be able to do all those things that you want to do if you want to do them. So I have a lot of experience, and I'm going to be making a whole section of pelvic floor classes in my postpartum program that I'm making. So please let me help you if you are feeling that way and you were like, I thought Kegels were going to be the answer to my prayers. They're not, and I would love to help you. It's a little bit more than just doing cat-cow, but it's definitely going to be in my program, and I have the knowledge to help you. I want to help you. I want you to be able to feel like you could do anything that you want to do without having to think twice about if you're going to be wearing the proper underwear or the proper pants for this outing that your friends want to do, or this birthday party that all your children and their friends are invited to. I want you to be able to feel like you can do and wear anything, being the super mom that you are. So if you want to work with me on that, you can comment below or you can DM me and we can chat about that program that's coming up. And I want to make you feel better, and I want you to be the super mom that you are. I promise you, I've been doing all of these things and I don't have any of those problems, and I've given birth 3 times. So I promise you my method works, and I want it to work for you too. All right, so give me a shout if you need to on that. Otherwise, look out for my polls and I will get those tutorials that you want going, and we'll chat next week about whatever wins on the poll for the live. All right, bye for now.